Welcome to Sunday Soul Food. I am David Strickle, channel of the stream and creator of the Thai Mindset Practice. I want to talk about thought pyramids. I use the pyramid analogy when we talk about wealth a lot, believing that certain individuals are at the top of the pyramid because they understand the pyramid, they love the system, they believe they deserve to be at the top, they feel the worthiness of it, they believe that they're abundant financially, and that everyone else in the matrix belief system, which is all of humanity, is going to comprise that pyramid. And the ones at the top are the ones that love and understand and really appreciate the system. Everyone else is something less than that. People that sort of have a quasi version of that belief system, but maybe they have a little more fear around it, a little more judgment around it, are going to be lower in the pyramid, but not all the way down at the base. And then the lower you get on the pyramid, the more anti financial system you're going to see in the belief systems of people that comprise the bottom of the pyramid, all the way down to the very bottom, the base of the pyramid, that carries the weight of the pyramid. And those are those that really believe that it's wrong, that it's evil, and it should not be. Well, this pyramid analogy applies to all belief systems, not just money. We use it to talk about money a lot because people struggle so much with money, because so many are somewhere in the pyramid other than the very top. But right now, more than ever, there is so much fear around what's going on across the planet. And I think there's always been a certain level of fear, but now people are starting to wake up to the matrix. And in waking up to the ways of the matrix, they are starting to look around a little more, question more. There's a lot more information available to us now, which I think is why the matrix is crumbling, because we can sort of look out there at all these conspiracy theories and think, well, that could be. And the stream has said over and over again that in terms of conspiracy theories, anything is possible. Most things are not probable, but anything is possible. And a lot of times these conspiracy theories start out as something that is what we would consider factual, and then they're spun into this more fearful version of the original theory with more darkness added to it, because that appeals to people. It gains viewers, it gains eyes. People are paying attention to it when you add a lot of fear and pepper a lot of fear into something. And that conspiracy grows to be something more outlandish than where it started, even though if it was rooted in what we would call truth. Well, when we're at the top of the pyramid, we're in full source appreciation of, fill in the blank. That's why the people at the very top of the financial pyramid, the ones that are labeled the 1%, the true 1% are not on Twitter complaining. The true 1% are not public about their thoughts and feelings. It's very private. And they are loving the financial system. And they are, in their own way, loving that all of humanity is playing a role in comprising this pyramid. Meaning they understand that they're at the top of the pyramid because they believe in their worthiness to be there. And that those that believe something less than that are contributing to them being there. They're a cog in the machine. And those cogs in the machine are simply living out their belief systems. And they're choosing that path. And the people at the top of the pyramid are completely at peace. And this is key. This is where we all get tripped up in spirituality. The ones at the top of the pyramid are completely at peace with the suffering of those that are in opposition to that belief system, that go lower and lower and lower all the way down to the base of the pyramid. The people that are protesting and so angry and so bitter and so damning of the financial system, that's the base of the pyramid. And there's a lot of them. Notice there's a lot more space at the base of the pyramid than the tip of the pyramid. That's why I love the pyramid as an analogy to this. But you can apply this to any topic: religion, politics, gender identity, all the hot topics of the day. You can take this pyramid analogy and apply it to any topic. There are people at the top that are in full appreciation of all of it and the roles it all plays. And then there are people at the base that are the opposite of appreciation. Well, when you are at the top of the pyramid on a topic, you are in appreciation of those that are at the base. It doesn't mean that you are trying to love them to the top. It doesn't mean that you're trying to boost them to the top. It means that you're completely accepting and appreciating the fact that they are having their experience, pushing against, protesting, being angry about, being hurt about, limiting themselves in some way. And the middle of the pyramid usually is comprised of the ones that aren't necessarily protesting and suffering as much, but they create their own limitations and their own suffering in the judgment of those at the base. Meaning, oh, that shouldn't be happening to them. Oh, that's a terrible situation. That's wrong. Well, that's not necessarily going to place you at the base of the pyramid, but it's certainly going to place you in the middle of it. You get to choose where you are on the pyramid of any topic. It's always choice. The stream is telling us there's no right or wrong place to be on that pyramid. And in the human experience, suffering has as much value as joy, if not more sometimes, because a lot of times that suffering leads us to new creation. A lot of times joy doesn't. If you think about it, a lot of new creation is not a derivative of joy. It's a derivative of pain. I'm suffering in this way. I don't like this thing. I want something to change. So therefore, I'm going to align with the creation of something new to solve that or to soothe that in some way. So pain and suffering has value. In the universe, pain and suffering has value. In the world, in the earth, the 3D earth environment, pain and suffering has value. How much art is created through pain? And what we've done is humanity has gotten so advanced that we have solved a lot of our pain. We've solved a lot, certainly not all, of suffering. And in solving the suffering with our ability to communicate and just technology, we have become wiser. And in that trip of becoming wiser, we are taking ourselves out of the matrix more often. No one's out of the matrix all the time, but we're spending more time outside the matrix. More and more of us are. And sometimes that is a product of what you might call mainstream spirituality. A lot of spiritual teachings are about quieting your mind, going out into the wilderness, spending some time in solitude, gathering your thoughts and journaling. All of those are positive things. That is a sign of humanity becoming wiser. And we're not necessarily taught to do that in mainstream religion. We are taught to rely on something external and go listen to someone else tell us what to think. Well, the stream is guiding us to think for ourselves. The stream is guiding us inward to our own source. And in doing so, we are creating this journey out of the matrix for ourselves. Taya is all about garnering tools to take yourself out of the matrix. Taya, at its best, is ultimately making itself obsolete, although I think there's a long road from where we are now to that place. But it's about learning to allow more of your source being to be realized, which is the top of the pyramid. That's appreciation of all things. It's appreciation that other people are creating their own suffering. We create all of our own suffering. And in doing so, they are participating in that pyramid and they are participating in the matrix. And all of that stuff, all of it is expansion. All of it is expansive energy at play in 3D physical. So what I've come to understand in my trip out of the matrix and my detuning of my own ego is that when you get out of the matrix, you are not fearful. When you get out of the matrix, you are not triggered. When you get out of the matrix, the idea of death is not a scary thing because you are one with source in that state and you understand your eternal nature and you understand the eternal nature of everyone on the planet, everything on the planet. So the concept of life, suffering, and death aren't the scary things that they are when you're in the matrix. The matrix teaches us that suffering and death should be avoided at all costs, that no one should be experiencing that. And if someone's experiencing that, we need to judge that. And in judging that, we lower our vibration. And guess what? Drawn deeper into the matrix. It's a brilliant creation. It absolutely is. And it's lovely to be at the top of the matrix pyramid, looking down at everyone that is in the, not down upon, but down at everyone that's in the pyramid, comprising that pyramid. All of the people on Twitter, the world is dying and we're heading to recession and the United States is going to fall apart, or whatever country you're in is, in decline, and the world is in decline and climate is changing and the humanity is going to become extinct. At the top of the pyramid, you're fine with all of that. Robert Kiyosaki is one of, I wouldn't say one of my favorite authors, but I like his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I recommend it to everyone because it's a great, it really is a lot of positive energy at its core. But if you go read his Twitter, everything is fear on his Twitter. His book says one thing and his Twitter says something else. Well, I was just kind of flipping through his Twitter feed this morning, just out of curiosity, what's old Robert up to? And all of it is, we're heading to recession, we're heading here, and we're heading there, and Biden's the worst president, and the country's in trouble, and all of this, everything is negative and everything is fear, all of it. And then you read his book and you get a whole different version of him. Think like Rich Dad, be abundant, be confident, know that you can make money without having to work. Know that your money is in this system, your money can work for you ultimately. That's the message in that book. And I love that message, but it's totally different when you read his Twitter feed. And it's like the Twitter feed is the hook that draws people into his universe. He's got 2.3 million followers on Twitter. So that's the hook that keeps people hooked on his message that sells the books. And then it's kind of like he knows that he's hooking you with all of the negativity and the fear to go buy one of his books, which drives money into his pockets. And he's got his system figured out. The challenges that I had when I was really trying to market Taya is that I would always refuse to, or not for very long, allow fear-based marketing. It'd be very easy for me to get a Twitter account and say, the world is in chaos, learn Taya and don't be part of the chaos. There's fear in that message, and I don't want to instill fear. So I don't have 2.3 million followers, and I'm at peace with that. At the top of my pyramid, I don't need 2.3 million people following me and participating in Taya. My belief system is that I am here to serve those who are ready for the stream's teachings and ready to get out of the matrix and ready to live a life of joy, clarity, and abundance, whatever that looks like, and allow my life to be abundant regardless of the success of the business. And I've been living that way for the past couple of years, and that has proven to be true. So at the top of my pyramid, I don't need the business success anymore. I love the Taya book. I'm reading if you saw the newsletter that went out today, we have a draft copy of it that we're reading. It's not the final copy. It's not the final title or cover or any of that stuff. I even put a picture of it out there just so everybody can kind of see. And I spent the last 2 weeks reading through and making edits, final edits to that book so that we can get it published and get it out there. And every time I read through everything, and most of it's channeled from the stream, every time I read through it, I get so excited, though, to share this information with humanity. But it's complicated. Michael's reading the book right now. And he is a doctor of psychology and master's in business. And he's still stopping and saying, what the hell is this? What does this mean? So it might be too much. I don't know. But it's going to be what it is. It's going to be the channel message of the stream. It may not be a #1 bestseller, or maybe not in my lifetime, or maybe not ever. I don't know. But I don't want to change it. I don't want to dumb it down for mass consumption. We were talking about marketing the book and getting it out there, which I do want to do. But we were talking about how The Secret was brilliant marketing because it was so dumbed down to a very simplistic portion of the universal process of creation. And it hooked people. Think yourself into being rich. I mean, my God, Think and Grow Rich was a huge success. Still is one of the best-selling books of all time. So is The Secret, because it basically promotes this idea that rich people just thought their way to being there. So therefore, that levels the playing field. Anybody can do it. That's true. But there's all this other, this mammoth of a matrix that's in the way of that. And those of us that practice Taya are figuring out how to get ourselves out of that, how to get beyond that mindset of, okay, I can think my way into being, and I can goose my vibration up to the top of my spiral, and I can get into this space where I can believe, at least for a moment, that I can have or do or be anything. But then the bills come due. Then I lower my vibration and the water heater breaks, or I get demoted at my job or fired, or something happens that just sends me down my spiral about finance, and I can't hold myself in that belief system long enough to activate a wealth vibration. That's where the pyramid teaching really comes into play, because when you're at the top of the pyramid, it's about appreciation of your own experience as much as it is about appreciation of everyone that's comprising the pyramid. Meaning, you're not at the top all the time. Not many people are. Maybe Bezos and Musk are at this point because they have so much wealth that they've got this belief system going that they're unstoppable. They're too big to fail at this point, and maybe they are. So they stay at the very, very top of the pyramid. But to move yourself up the pyramid is all about appreciating all of it. And that's, in the matrix, considered greed. It's considered being callous and greedy. How dare you not care about the people at the base? Here you are hoarding all of that wealth at the top of the pyramid. The 1% has all the money. They're evil. They must be stopped. Eat the rich. We hear all of these things. And the reason the people at the bottom of the pyramid are suffering is because the people at the top are hoarding all of the wealth. Well, there's an argument to be made for that. But the reason the people are at the top of the pyramid is because they are not caring about all that. It's true. But is that a form of appreciation? I think it is. I think that's a form of source-aligned appreciation, because we know from the stream that the people that are at the top 1% are creating expansion for themselves and for the universe, just having this temporary experience of being a multi-billionaire. But so are the people at the base. It's only the matrix that tells us that one is right and one is wrong in terms of how you live. The matrix is saying it's fantastic to live on yachts and be surrounded by people that worship you and adore you, and live in lavish luxury and eat the best food and go to the best places and have all of those grandiose life experiences. But there's contrast in those experiences as well. In fact, I can only imagine what an enormous responsibility it is to be a multi-billionaire. I'm sure there's a lot of perks and a lot of fun stuff that goes along with that, but you're also working at staying there 24/7. I'm sure it becomes quite tedious. And we all know that there are billionaires, usually after they die, we find out how miserable they really were. And it's interesting to read about that. Reading about Steve Jobs was a very interesting thing for me. How truly, not at peace with himself this guy was, even though he was so incredibly successful. So he had his expansive experience. And the people suffering at the base of the pyramid, the people living in tents, not far from here, over in Palm Springs, there are people. There's a whole little town now, just like you see in LA and San Francisco, of people that there's a little tent city, and they're homeless. But we are judging that from our perspective. But does their life have value? Or their lives have 3D value in the fact that they are drivers of commerce? Because look how much advocacy there is for the homeless. You think that doesn't drive commerce? Whether any of that money actually goes into their pockets, which it probably doesn't, or not, it's driving commerce for someone. And their experience is driving expansion for themselves, which is driving expansion for source. So from the Taya perspective, the person that is homeless is driving expansion and having their experience. And Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos are driving expansion and having their experience. And there's no delineation. Source has appreciation for all of it. It's only the matrix that tells us that Bezos is good and being homeless is bad. When we take that judgment out of it and allow others to have their experience without judgment of it, then we're moving up in the pyramid. So that's true on any topic. A hot button issue politically these days, if you're paying attention to American politics, which, it's a very entertaining thing. So regardless of where you are, I'm sure you're somewhat aware of what's going on in American politics. But the new boogeyman, I always laugh at, throughout my entire lifetime in politics, we've had this sort of boogeyman that's put out there as this group of people are coming for you, or they're coming for your children. They're a threat to your way of life. I remember welfare queens. I remember flag burners. People that protested the Vietnam War. What else? We can name many of them, all the way into more modern boogeymen, gay people, gay marriage, certainly Muslims, the Taliban, after 2001. Well, now it went through a period during COVID of being trans people, and that sort of wore off and got kind of old, and the vibration on that shifted, and now it's drag queens. And now drag queens are the evil ones that are coming for your children. And now states are actually, banning drag performances. I will tell you, I'm a gay man. I've been to a lot of drag shows. Would I advocate taking children to a drag show? In most cases, probably not. But I think that it depends on the content. It's not about a dude putting on makeup and a wig that makes it appropriate or not. It's probably just the sexualized nature and a parent deciding whether they want to expose their child to that or not early on. But it's just a ploy, and it's a ploy used by both sides in politics to fundraise and to distract people from what they're really up to, which is enriching themselves. I can say that without judgment, though, because I don't give power to politics. That's just the vibration of being in politics in this country right now, is that I think that a lot of well-meaning people get into it, and the higher they go, the more seductive the matrix becomes for them, and the more it becomes a money-making opportunity. And there's a whole investment platform now dedicated to watching the investment habits of people that are in Congress, because people in Congress do very well with their investments because they have all of the inside information. Even though insider trading is illegal, they have access to it. It's very easy to look at all of that and demonize it. Oh, that's so wrong. These people are corrupt. They're crooked. They get into government. They get elected to office for the people, but they're not for the people. They're for themselves. And they put this boogeyman out there, so everybody's talking about and focusing on that, while they're really worrying about, well, what information do we have and what are we going to invest in next? But if you're at the top of the pyramid, you appreciate that. You appreciate that as much as you appreciate the homeless person driving commerce in their own way and having their own experience and driving expansion. You appreciate that children are born into this world and absolutely suffer in their experience, sometimes right away. And appreciation is not celebration. That's where I lose people, I know. When you start talking about appreciation of children suffering, everybody, clicks off. This is crazy. This is insane. I can't listen to this. I have to be very, very clear, though, that this is a highly sophisticated thought process, and appreciation is not celebration. Appreciation is deep understanding of. But I will tell you that as someone that was born into somewhat adverse conditions personally, and my father left when I was 6. My mother was absolutely mentally ill. Definitely I became a gay person. I believe I was probably born that way, and nurturing probably impacted that somewhat. I was not taught that what I was okay as a child. Yet I believe I turned out okay. I'm 55 years old. I love myself. I love life. I'm at peace with who and what I am. But I went through a lot of adversity to get to this place. But I look back at all of that adversity and I think, gosh, I appreciate it so much, because if I hadn't suffered, I wouldn't have had the unique human journey that I've had, and I wouldn't be where I am now. And then the argument to that very often is, well, that's great for you, but not everybody did that. Not everybody has the stream. Well, everybody does have the stream. I made a conscious choice to listen to my stream as a survival technique, and that's why it stuck around and developed the way that it did. Everybody has that. Some people didn't have that experience, however. Some people hated themselves for being gay to the point of suicide. And they took themselves out of the human experience very early on, sometimes 10 or 11, 12 years old. And that still happens today. And the Matrix tells us that we have to stop that. So what happens in the Matrix? Well, what happens in the Matrix? You have well-meaning people that want to try to save children from their contrast and save them from their experience. It's well-intended. It's higher vibe than wanting to abuse children for sure, but it's not the top of the pyramid. Sorry, it's not. You get to choose where you are on the pyramid, however. So if you want to be in a place, if the line for you and Taya is I'm never going to appreciate children having their experience, i.e. suffering, that's fine. That's the cool thing about Taya is we're not saying you've got to get over this line or you're never going to be a Tayist. You don't get to stick around, if you don't cross that line of appreciating children suffering. There's no rule about that. You don't have to be at the top of the pyramid on every topic, and you're never going to be at the top of the pyramid on every topic all the time. We're not. It's just about understanding what it is and having access to that space so that you can climb your ass out of the matrix and view it from the top down, from the higher perspective, and be a more sophisticated human being so that all of this fear and all of this crap isn't triggering you. And ultimately, when you do enough detuning of your ego, i.e. climbing out of the matrix, your triggers really go away. You get to live life in a way that stupid little things trigger you more than the big stuff, because you've done so much work on the big stuff that you don't have those big triggers that send you down anymore. I can tell you where I am in my journey now with triggers. Triggers for me are little trivial things that happen just when I'm not really paying attention to my vibe. Usually it's later in the day when I'm physically tired and I'm just kind of running on autopilot a little bit. I'll have a little thing that'll trigger me for a moment. And it feels so uncomfortable that in a moment I pull myself right back out of it and I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Am I going to reach a place where I'm never triggered about anything ever again? I don't know. I'm not racing toward perfection. I do know that. But I am healing triggers like crazy. You know, it's amazing. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because this is what continued practice does. Do I want to see an animal or a child or a person being abused? No. But it's not the triggering event that it used to be. When I hear about it, when I see a depiction of it on television, I'm able to enjoy television again. There was a time that I turned all that stuff off. And even in the beginning stages, and I'm moving toward the next phase of Taya teachings, we're going to start kind of talking about phases of the practice. Because I get on here and I talk about the leading edge. Back when we had Mastery, I've kind of put Mastery on hiatus for this year. But back when we had Taya Mastery, I was coming out sharing all of the very crazy leading edge out there stuff all the time, and I still do. But I want everyone to understand that where I am in my practice, you may not be here, and that's okay. It's okay. This is a journey, and there's so much to be garnered from the journey, from every part of it, from every spin out. There are things that I definitely have encountered in the past few years that when I started teaching Taya, I thought I was well beyond. And guess what? I wasn't. There was vibrational dust present. I went right back into an old vibrational habit that I thought I was done with, and it came back around again. But then there was a whole new level of expansion offered to me in that spin out. So much so that I'm not concerned about spin outs now. Spin outs are great. Spin outs are helpful. Spin outs really advance you to the next level. And I don't think that there's a ceiling to these levels. I don't think there is, because I have thought in the past that I was there only to discover that I wasn't. And there was a whole new level of clarity even beyond that. That's expansion. That's the expansive nature of Source. Source is ever expanding. So there's no finish line. There's no point where you're fully enlightened. But I don't believe that exists. There's new levels and new layers that you are creating for yourself all the time. And I personally believe if I ever get to the point where I think that I'm fully enlightened, I've re-engaged my ego, because only my ego would believe that I was fully enlightened. Source would never say that. Source, through me, channeled as a stream, has never said that there is a point where you as a physical being are fully enlightened, because they are saying we are ever expanding consciousness. We are always becoming more sophisticated versions of ourselves. That's what they say about themselves as Source. We, as human beings, are on the same journey. That creation of the matrix, we built this powerful matrix of human belief that moved us to where we are in this place of being able to communicate physically in 3D almost as well as we communicate eternally, which we don't need any external tools to do. But here we are in 3D creating technology, artificial intelligence that is so close and so efficient in comparison to that which we are, at least that which we allow. But we created it, so it's still of us. But it's also of Source, because all things were of Source. So we have this level of intelligence that we're reaching. And notice how interesting it is that as we reach this higher level of intelligence and we start to question the matrix comes for us. More fear, more destruction. Your planet is dying. You're heading toward world war. You're heading toward global financial collapse. There's a pandemic. Everyone's going to die. And we have all of these big fears that are blown out of proportion, that control behavior, that limit us, that draw us back into the matrix. The pandemic drew us all back in the matrix, myself included. Absolutely it did. Only to question and scratch our heads and say, maybe not. And most survived. And now most can look back and realize, wow, yeah, people died. People suffered. People suffer and die every day. Maybe some more suffered and died because of that. But ultimately, doomsday never came. And if I haven't figured anything else out in 3D, it's that I have been told about doomsday all my life. I certainly grew up in the Cold War, toward the end of the Cold War, but still the Cold War era, where we're going to get nuked. The Russians are coming for us, and that kind of waned for a while, and now that's heating up again. No pun intended. And I have had so many things danced out in front of me in my lifetime that was supposed to instill fear, the end of the world, and the end of the world didn't show up. All these years later, 55 years later for me. So I'm not going to bother being afraid of that anymore, because sooner or later, my physical journey is going to end, and whatever happens after that is what's going to happen. I personally believe, from everything that I've experienced, that source eternal portion of me is eternal, and that there's some version of me that's going to continue to experience physical and enjoy it and appreciate it and suffer in it. So who cares? Enjoy what's here. Enjoy the day. Stop worrying about the future. Look at how addictive the Matrix is. Is there any better indicator of the Matrix than Twitter? I don't spend much time on there at all. I spend a little more time on TikTok. It seems a little less matrixy to me, but still a matrix nonetheless. So much less matrixy that they're talking about banning it in the United States. Why are we so fearful of something? Because it's a threat to the matrix? Perhaps. But I'm not going to spin out into another conspiracy theory. If it gets banned tomorrow, fine. It's a fun little thing to do every once in a while. I used during the pandemic, I used it a lot more. I don't use it nearly as much anymore. But it's interesting just to kind of see what's going on in the world. And that's a snapshot of that. So being at the top of the pyramid is about being able to view it, being able to experience, being able to be in the matrix, play around in the matrix, in appreciation of it, not in fear of it, and experience all those elements of life. And going through the stages of Taya, in the beginning, turning things off, shutting things down, maybe get off social media if it's not serving you, if it's lowering your vibration, anything that's lowering your vibration early on in the practice, you want to start eliminating that stuff. But as you move out of the matrix, and as you understand the pyramid and how to be at the top of it in full authentic appreciation, then you can dive back in and experience elements of humanity, elements that are very matrix driven, without the fear and judgment. I'm watching a couple of television shows again. I don't really find myself liking movies anymore. When I was a kid, they were fantastic movies. Now, maybe I'm just getting to be an old fart. I don't really like movies anymore. There's some television shows that I think are really good. So I can watch television shows and I can see suffering in these television shows and I'm not triggered. Because A, I know it's just a television show, and B, that event isn't judged by me the way it used to be. The suffering of animals, the suffering of humans, the quote unquote untimely demise of such, that's just not triggering to me anymore, because it's just an experience. And when I'm watching something that's fictional, I'm just watching a fictional depiction of humanity. And I'm watching these, and the things that I like best are these complex characters that are vibrationally all over the place. I don't really particularly enjoy watching a character that's one-dimensional, that's just high vibe all the time or low vibe all the time. I've always enjoyed characters that I see go up and down the vibrational scale, and I see the positive aspects of them as well as the negative aspects of them, or the unwanted aspects of them. So as you move through your practice and move through your journey in the stream's teachings, which the Taya practice is just the application of that, understand that I will come on here. I will talk about some really heady, spun out things. If it turns you off and if you're not time for you to hear that, that's completely okay. but I don't expect, there's no expectation of from source or the stream or me for you to necessarily be where I am in the practice. I am the creator of the practice. I'm the leader of the practice. The practice is all about you going inward and having your own unique journey, though. So you don't have to follow the leader. You don't have to think the way that I think. I'm just sharing it with you because this is what the practice is revealing to me. And I love hearing from all of you what the practice is revealing to you. So if you're a member of Patreon, and we exclusively do these live on Patreon, and we leave them, we don't put them out publicly for at least 60 days after I recorded them. Go into Patreon and have a conversation. You know, I see some Patreon conversations starting. That is intended to be a community where you get the leading edge information about what's going on in Taya and Stream, and use that platform in a more social way. I want to encourage all of you to do that. So I want to thank those of you that joined live this morning. I hope that I provided a little bit of guidance and enlightenment that will help you in your week. I will leave you with just remembering the whole idea of the pyramid is appreciation takes you to the top. And appreciation of the experience of all of humanity, regardless of what the matrix tells you or how the matrix tells you to judge it, that moves you to the top. No longer judging the experience of others, no longer judging your past, no longer judging your past mistakes, your past decisions, or your past suffering the way that you've been taught to judge it in the matrix. Detuning fear and judgment allows more of your source being to be realized in your daily life. That is joy, that is clarity, and that is abundance. Thank you for watching.